Thank thank you so much, Anjay. Very good morning to everyone. I welcome to all of you to this amazing learning session that we conduct on every Fridays for 1 hour from 11 to 12. My name is Preeti. I'm one of the sales specialists at Protouch Professional Training. So before we start, let me give you a quick overview about us. Protouch is a certification institute which provide upskilling courses to the professionals like HR generalists, HR analytics advanced certification program, post train the trainer to deliver post trainings, business analytics for manager certification, corporate trainer and facilitator train the trainer certification, certified practitioner course certification, and emotional intelligence trainer and coach certification. We also provide customized programs to the professionals. So all the programs are accredited by the topmost bodies like ICF, SHRM, HRCI, CPD, and IBEC. I'm so glad to see many existing students, team members, and aspiring students of ProTouch who have joined this learning session. I would like to know from each and every audience what excites you, or you can, or I would like to change my question, like, do you like storytelling or do you like to listen to stories? You can please unmute yourself, or you can share your concern, your thoughts in the chat box. Mohit has mentioned yes. Thank you so much, Mohit, for sharing your thoughts. What else? Anjay also loves storytelling, story listening. Survi, thank Rahul sir has mentioned. Nikhil, yes. Everyone has mentioned yes almost in the chat box. Yes, Sunita has mentioned story. Yes, with storytelling, we can relate. Lucia has mentioned, I love reading stories. Thank you so much, Lucia, for sharing your thoughts. Now, let's begin our learning session with Smita and Khyati, our guest speakers of today's morning. I would like to take a moment to introduce everyone with our today's guest speakers. Smita, who is a corporate trainer holding 10 plus years of experience in varied areas: training and development, HR generalist, recruitment, and marketing. Her mission is to enable young career executives to enhance their communication and interpersonal skills to address challenges and transform their professional careers. Whereas Khyati is an ambivert corporate trainer with an overall experience of 4.5 years. She comes from the industry that is hospitality, and after spending 2 years with hotels both in India and at abroad, she moved on to pursue her passion into training and development. She has been working with some of the brands like Zomato and InfoEdge. It's our honor to have Smita and Khyati with us today. Over to you, Smita.
Thank you, Preeti, for the wonderful introduction. A very good morning to you all, and thank you for taking the time to join us. So, one question to ask you is, what comes to your mind when I say the word story? Could you please share your thoughts in chat box, or you can unmute and please go ahead. You can define it in your own terms. When I say define, not necessary textbook language or dictionary words, anything that comes to your mind. Yes, Rajkumar say my grandma. Yes. Anybody would like to share your thoughts?
To me,
Yes, you're trying to say something?
that people with different experience.
Different experience. Yes, Krishna has mentioned Amar Chitrakatha. Okay, thank you. Sharing experiences with your own twist. Yes, Divya, right? My paternal grandfather. Wow, yes, we all relate. Yeah, correct. So, stories are formed when we organize and express any situations, events, in a narrative form. It's just like you take a pieces of puzzle which are scattered, takes those puzzle, arrange them in a way, and make it in such a way that it can make sense to your audience, right? As most of you are relating to your grandparents, paternal grandparents, yes. Just think back the day we entered into this world. We all were listening to stories, and stories were form of our our communication, from the vital communication, right? So it happens that when we listen to stories, quickly our brain, it is natural inclination of the brain. It is okay when anything comes to us in a story form, we are able to understand and grasp the information. So it's a fundamental medium which we can use to share and learn and connect with people. Yes, so let's begin. I'll share you the presentation. Okay. Okay, is it visible, people? I hope it is visible, my screen.
Yeah.
Yes. When you look at this story, can you just tell me what exactly the story is about? Any thoughts, please? These pictures, when you look at these pictures.
This is Samudra Manthan.
Yes, rightly, Prashant. Thank you. It's about Samudra Manthan. So once upon a time, Devas and Asuras, they decided to churn the ocean. And what was the motive? It was to get the Amrit, extract Amrit. So it happens that when they started churning the ocean, there were 14 treasures which emerged out. And the last one was Dhanvantri with a pot full of Amrit. What happens next is Mohini, and it's actually Vishnu in Mohini avatar distributing Amrit to Devas and Asuras. While doing so, she started distributing it from the Devas side. So one of the Asura, he feels, suspicious. Kuch to dal mein kuch kala hai yahan pe. He quickly disguises himself and moves to the Devas side. And when Mohini distributes Amrit, what happens is already gulped a bit. What we see in the third picture, sun and moon are sitting next to that Asura. His name is Swarabhanu. Now they bring it, alert Mohini. Hey Mohini, he's actually an Asura. So what she does, she quickly takes a Sudarshan Chakra and beheads the Asura instantly. What happens now? He's already drank a bit of Amrit. So he's going to become immortal, right? And now when his head is into two, head portion is called as Rahu and the torso below is called as Ketu. Rahu and Ketu, now they're very upset with sun and moon. Now he decides to take a revenge. And one fine day, okay, when sun and moon are together, Rahu attacks. When the attacks takes place, there's all over darkness there. However, sun, he is a hero. Okay, he is immortal. He's a deva. He comes out, he defeats and comes out gloriously. And then Rahu and Ketu are quite frustrated because their plan is failed now. They decide, okay, let's apply the second strategy, plan 2. What is that? Divide and rule policy. They decide 15 days from here, next, when sun and moon are apart from each other, that they're diagonally opposite to each other, let's decide to attack. And this time, post 15 days when they attack, they are able to help moon for some time as a ransom, for ransom. Then what happens again? Moon is again a deva, he's immortal. He defeats Rahu and Ketu and he emerges out. So this story is going to continue eternally. All right. Now, this story has been used in our Gurukulas as well as a prep up story. Okay, it was a prep up, to what they had to learn in advanced science. So now my question to you all is, okay, the fourth picture what you see is actually in one of the temple in Thailand. You can see Rahu is trying to eat sun. Okay, so my question to you all is, can you relate this to a scientific phenomena? What comes to your mind when I'm trying to tell you this story? Any thoughts, please? Can someone share your thoughts?
Surya
The
Grahana,
eclipse, right?
Surya Grahana.
Lunar and solar eclipses.
Yes, exactly. So let's try how this story is connected to a scientific phenomena. Now, this is the fact. Yes, when you visualize from the earth, what we see is sun and moon are rotating in two different circles. It seems like that. And the paths intersect at 2 points. And these 2 points, these 2 nodes are called as Rahu and Ketu. Okay, when sun and moon are together in one of these, when they're together, that is when solar eclipse happens. And when they're diagonally opposite to each other, that is when the lunar eclipse happens. Now, such a complicated 3D geometry which was happening in the sky people were able to tell it to the common people. Now, understanding this astronomy, Jyotisha calculations was quite difficult, isn't it? So they were able to put that complex story into such a simple format that even today, most of us remember story, right? But we might not remember how this is connected to the fact. So people forget facts, but they remember stories. It's a beautiful quote by Joseph Campbell. Yes. So let's understand the evolution now. 100,000 years ago, when language was started developing, okay, then we used storytelling for the transfer of knowledge from generations to generations. And 27,000 years ago, we used cave paintings. There were cave paintings for transfer of knowledge. 3,500 years ago is the only when we started using text to transfer the knowledge from generations to generations. And just see the fourth picture is PowerPoint. It's just 37 years old. So just think of which makes more impact on our brain. Any thoughts, please? Which is more powerful, stories or the PPT? Anybody would like to share your thoughts? Yes, it's stories. Thank you, Surabhi. Yes. So now, is there any logic why stories work? Any thoughts? Is there any logic why stories work? Why is that when someone starts telling stories, we are more captivated and listen to them?
Because we are able to visualize it also while listening it, and we can remember it easily.
Absolutely, Varnika, rightly said. Yes, it creates visualization. Yes, thank you. Yes, let's try to understand that. Okay, so this is a psychological impact. So can someone tell me what you can understand from this? What are these? Could you please share your thoughts?
Some chemicals that our brain body releases.
Absolutely. Thank you, Krishna. Yes, these are the chemical reactions happening in our brain, right? Dopamine, endorphin, and oxytocin. These are the hormones. So what does this dopamine feel like? What exactly is this? Any thoughts? Neurons, chemical processes? Yes, yes. Thank you. Dopamine, when I say, I just want to share one situation here. When I was completing my from ProTouch, I was completing my certification program. And the day we finished our first sessions, that day evening, Rahul, he is the director of ProTouch. He just told us that evening, okay, tomorrow morning, you're going to have your assessments. We were all aware. But still, we ended up asking questions to Rahul. Rahul, could you please tell us how it is going to be, the format? Is it going to be MCQ or descriptive? What are the number of questions? And what if we don't clear? Are we going to get another chance? So all these questions we were asking to him. And Rahul, with a beautiful smile, he said, all your questions will be answered tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. when you get the link. And he also said that once you clear, you're going to get your certificates by end of the day in your inbox. What happened now? It's just that the moment he said this to us, our brain released dopamine. Why? Because we were now more focused. What are the effects when dopamine is high? We are more focused, we are more motivated, and our energy level is good. We are good at remembering things that time, right? So this is the power of dopamine when the brain releases into our body. And moving on to the next, oxytocin. I would like to share Dr. Aparna's story here. Yes, she's a director and founder of ProTouch again. Dr. Rahul shared the story with us during our session. When Aparna started her training career, it was difficult, tough. Back then, there was no social media available, right? So she used to invite people actually home and offer them food for free, train them. This was how she started her training career. And also, there is one instance where she has delivered a webinar when there were no people on the other side. What was the impact? Later on, one of her clients reached out after seeing that webinar. So this was the determination what she had. So when we listen to someone's stories, when they have struggled, where they have faced challenges or failures, we quickly connect a bond with them because by telling their stories, they are demonstrating transparency, right? So we develop that trust in them. So this is a beautiful hormone which makes us feel more human. Let's move on to the next one. It's endorphin. So any thoughts? What does this endorphin does? Any thoughts, please? All right. Endorphin is they say it's called as laughing chemical. Now, what happens when we have attended many sessions, training sessions, or workshops, induction programs, or there could be some critical discussion which we are going to have, right? So what we start with, it's most of the time with the energizers or icebreakers. Why? It makes people more comfortable. Just think if you have an energizer which is having a physical activity, how is the environment? People start running around. There is a positive environment, and there is a positive interaction as well, right? So this is when our mood elevates. What happens then? What are the effects of endorphin? Now the effects are it has helped us to become more creative. We are more focused. We are ready to listen what the other person is going to say. Now these three chemicals what I've discussed right now, these are all I can say it as angel's cocktail, right? Now opposite to this is something called devil's cocktail. These are adrenaline and cortisol. Any thoughts what happens when these chemicals are released by brain? Anybody would like to share? Most of the time, when we interact with people, just imagine all of us are busy, frustrated, stressed. Yes, thank you. Yes, most of the time, what happens is in a busy life, when we are running morning till evening, we are always trying to accumulate, take something in. For example, we have personal problems, professional problems, deadlines, and there are so many situations where we'll have to face presentations, meetings. Most of them, when all these thoughts they have in their mind, what happens that time when we interact with the person? Is it going to be challenging for us to extract information from such people? What's your view? Or is it going to be easy? Most of the time, we are going to find it difficult to extract information from the other person. Now, what? Because the effects when this adrenaline and cortisol is there in our body, we are not focused and we end up taking wrong decisions. We are not creative, memory is impaired, and also we are intolerant or irritable. These are the effects of this adrenaline and cortisol in our blood. Now, in such situation, what we can do is we can start to become a storyteller. Yes. When I say we have to become a storyteller, not necessarily we all should have a voice like Amitabh Bachchan, Damdar, Wazandar. Okay, we are all blessed with beautiful voices, isn't it? So we can use our own voice. And second is we have to come up with our own stories. We all have faced challenges, problems, decisions we have taken, but we overcome those tough decisions, right? So these are all the stories. And the third one is you have to organize those or index those stories. It's like, okay, next time when I'm getting into presentation or a meeting with a stakeholder, which story I'm going to use, which is going to make my audience curious to know things, which is the story is going to make them feel human, right? And which is the story is going to make them feel creative. So when we are ready with our stories, it becomes easy for us to communicate with our audience. So this is the psychological impact of storytelling. So with storytelling, we have been doing it subconsciously. We are not doing it consciously though. How many of you agree with this? We are all storytellers. Please raise your hands. Yes, we are all storytellers, is it? Just think during a office conversation over a cup of coffee as well, when you're talking to your colleague, how did the client meeting go? And if your senior management is discussing with you how the company should look like after 2 years. Or let's another example, your manager, you happen to meet him in an escalator, he's just asking, hey, this was a very difficult client and this is how I came up with. All this, no, it's actually showing the prevalence of stories. It's we have been creating stories every day. It's just that we'll have to do it consciously. Yes. So let's move on how we can use storytelling at workplace. So these are the reasons: engagement and memorability. So how many of you find boring when you look at only facts and data in your presentations during the meetings? Sometimes it's tiring, right? What's happening?
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. So when you, yes, of course, you have to share your facts and data, but when it is accompanied with a story, it becomes more interesting. Your people will, your audience will, okay, so there is something interesting here. Effective communication, yes, all the complex things, try to put it into a story form and then try to present it. Problem solving and decision making. When I say decision making, just think when you think of buying a product on Amazon, what do? We go through the product description, right? What happens next? We just go through the product descriptions, then we immediately go to the reviews. Why is that? We want to see what people have talking about. Those are the stories. Similarly, at the workplace also such situations come up when people have to take decisions. They think, hey, how this is going to impact me? They're all looking for stories there again, right? Cultural transmission. Yeah, every organization again has its own values and ethics. So if this has to be transferred from the junior management to the senior management, it has to be done in a very organized form, right? And human connection, yes, stories do evoke emotions. What happens when we are emotionally high? It's we try to immerse ourselves into somebody else's stories. We become more, there is a bond and attachment towards that person. So that is how we build human connections. Inspiration and motivation, I have discussed already Aparna's story in the previous slide, and how such people, they influence and persuade us to become a successful person in our life as well. And when we listen to such stories, there's a transparent, there is nothing hide and seek there. It fosters trust. So these are the reasons why we have to start using storytelling at workplace. With this, I would like to hand it over to my colleague Khyati. Khyati, over to you.
Well, thanks, Smita, for taking us through some wonderful stories and enlightening us on how stories are the earliest form of communication and why it really works on our minds, what effect it has hormonally. So that was some wonderful information on innovation there. So let's all innovate some stories, have get creative mindset ready, and let's try to look at the magic these stories create. So with this, let's take a look at the different types of storytellers. So when we hear the word storytelling, what comes to our mind is एक phrase पढ़ देंगे, एक story book होगा, picture book होगा, and that's done. But that's not the case. So to understand this, I would request all of you to just close your eyes for a bit, go back in time, and imagine your mother putting you to sleep. The objective of that story, when she was reading out from a picture book to you, or maybe patting your back just to get you to sleep, the objective of that story is completely different from what our CEO tells us today. In our business meetings, the way he explains the challenges that he went through and how the company was set up. Both the objectives are really different. Their aim is to, that side, the aim is to inspire you and to motivate you to work better. So, depending upon the objective that we have, there would be different techniques of storytelling, and the storytellers would be different. If we look at the first one, which is persuader, what happens when we buy a microwave? How many of you have a microwave here? Or maybe went to a store to check it out? Let's quickly raise hands. Microwave, guys. So when we walk into a store, while the sales executive is explaining that this is how the microwave oven works, this is here you plug in, and these are the functions, da. But one thing he doesn't forget to add. We all know how a microwave works and what's the function to warm food, but he'll still say, काम करके घर आओगे ना, गैस ऑन ही नहीं करनी पड़ेगी, आपको सिर्फ प्लेट इसमें रख दो और माइक्रोवेव ऑन कर दो, आराम से मस्त गरम खाना खाओ बेड में बैठ के. Why does he say that is, here he's trying to sell a story, which will in turn help him to sell his product. So these are the persuaders who are pushing you to take an action with the help of a story. Then we have inspirers. So like Smita mentioned about Dr. Aparna's story, the whole idea was to inspire, to make you feel that hope, to make you feel that motivation in you that you can overcome those challenges. We have revolutionaries. So when we read out the word revolutionary, freedom fighters, I think, is the first thing we are able to connect to. What they actually did was, if you read about them, if we read about them in the history books or see movies, what they were doing is they were making people question the situation around them. They were making people aware about the slavery situation, which in turn was helping people to change the present condition. So once you have a question in your mind, you start looking around and observing, why is it happening? What exactly the problem is? And then you start to look for a solution. So revolutionary is the main idea here, is to put that question in your mind, to put that thought in your mind, so that you try to change the situation. We have empowerers, which are very similar to how inspirers work. The only difference here is an empowerer storyteller will make you feel that you have that control of your life. You're confident. The way our teachers sometimes share an experience before our examinations, that मेरा एक student था, 2 बार fail हुआ, but तीसरी बार he was that determined, he was able to clear it. We see MBA graduates from IIMs sharing their stories on how they prepared for about years, but eventually they were able to take it through. And today they are doing big. So that way they make you feel confident. They make you feel that you'll be able to overcome those hurdles. And lastly, manipulators. How many of you have seen people asking for money using some false stories, sometimes saying ye bimar hai, wo bimar hai? We often see such people on the streets, sometimes over social media. What they're trying to do is they are selling false stories. They're using lies so that they're able to control the outcome. They just want to have that money extracted out of you. And that is how they'll use different stories, lies, false information to manipulate you. So these are the 5 types of storytellers. And like we saw, in all these 5 types, the objective was different. So with this, I'll hand it over back to Smita, who will take us through how a story should have a structure, what the blueprint should look like. So over to you, Smita.
Thank you, Khyati. Okay, now this is the storytelling blueprint which I would like to share with you. Please listen to this story again carefully. Once upon a time, there was a young guy. He had just finished his graduation, coming from a middle class family. And now his aim was to pursue his higher education in one of the reputed B schools. Of course, his parents were quite supportive. Yeah, but despite all the efforts, he failed twice continuously in clearing his exams, entrance exams. Now, what happened? He was quite upset and he decided to travel to different places and just freshen up his mood. After doing so, he decided eventually, okay, now I need to earn my living. And that is when he comes to one of the place and joined MACD's as a he started working MACD just for rupees 200 a day. However, he was not happy. Why? Because he already always dreamt of something big to do in life. So though he was performing very good in McDonald's, then he decided, let me quit this job. If I'm stuck to the job, then I'm not going to pursue my dreams. So that's how he quit his job. What he did now, he called up his father, Dad, I want to pursue a course. Please send me some amount. And his dad believed him and he sent him the amount. What did this person do? He just started a tea stall with the amount what he got. Of course, parents are not aware about this. Now what happens? First day, there is no customer. And the second day, he decides, okay, people are not coming to me. Then I'll have to take a different approach. He started going to reaching out to people. On the highway, he started knocking people in the cars and offering them teas. He was very good at communication. So he started doing well day by day. However, what happens later? One day, his father calls up, hey beta, how is your course going on? Guilt started hurting him. Oh God, I lied to my parents. What he did was he just enrolled to a part-time course. Few days he went to the classes. However, his mind was only on the business. So he decided, I'm wasting my time here because I have to focus only on my business now. That day he quit that course. Then he said, no, I'm not going to pursue my education now. I'll concentrate on completely on the business. He started doing really well. However, again, there was a trouble for him. What happened this time? The stall where he had sat, already the footfall was increasing. People were coming to his stall, they were enjoying his tea. And then what happens is there are few they are who jealous about this business because he is taking all their business. They are not able to do the perform in the business well. What happens now here is they decide to check this guy out. They threatened him. Of course, the threat was really very bad. So he decided he had to quit that place. Now what? He's again back to zero. He has to start from the beginning. Just imagine what was his fate. But however, he didn't give up. This time, he set up a tea stall in one of the hospital premises. Of course, with taking the permissions, he didn't want to end up himself into the same consequences what he faced earlier. Again, different flavors he introduced. He came up with different concepts, and people were really liking the tea. And now what happens is this guy has put up 200 franchises all over India, and his business turnover is 30 crores. All right. So this sheer determination of his, okay, what may ever come, I'm not going to give up, has made him a successful entrepreneur. Though he has not completed his masters, today he's invited by the B schools as a guest speaker to talk as a young entrepreneur to talk and motivate the students over there. So people, question here to you all is, who is this person? He has got only 8,000 rupees from his father, hence, okay, he has not completed his masters. Yes, please. Any guesses who is this person I'm talking about? You'll have to make guesses. He has worked in McD's.
MBA chai wala.
Absolutely, yes, he is MBA Chaiwala. Now, he kept his name MBA.
MBA chai wala.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's MBA Chaiwala. Yes, it's Mr. Bilori Ahmad Chaiwala. Ahmedabad Chaiwala is the name actually. Though he's not completed his masters, but still he could start up a business and he's a very successful entrepreneur. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Okay, over to you, Khyati.
Thanks, Smita, for taking us through a wonderful story. Even I didn't know that MBA here didn't actually meant Masters in Business Administration. All this while, I had been thinking somewhere in the story he'll complete his MBA. Okay, maybe after the tea stall he'll do his MBA, but this looks even more interesting that he nowadays he's being invited by B schools to share his insights on the same. So we heard an amazing story from Smita that was indeed inspiring. But is storytelling that easy? Or do we face some challenges with these techniques as well? Can you think of any challenges that we might face? Anything that you would have maybe faced while sharing a story?
How you can relate that story with the person.
Right, so we can relate a story with a person. However, while narrating a story, there are different challenges that we come across. In our personal lives, while sharing our stories with our siblings or with our kids, or maybe sharing an experience at home, while sharing the details, if we are losing the plot, if our parents or our siblings are focusing on unimportant things, we can stop the narration right there and we can just say, अरे यार इसमें नहीं इस पे फोकस करो ये मेन कैरेक्टर है आप उसकी गर्लफ्रेंड के बारे में कहाँ सोच रहे हो मेन कैरेक्टर तो बंदा है उस पे फोकस करते हैं but that's not possible while we are using this technique at workplace. At workplace, we have to be really careful with the audience. The first challenge that you might face is having an unclear point of view. So stories come up with a hidden learning, with a hidden objective. What you're asking the audience to do at the end of the story. What is that one key takeaway they are supposed to have? So that point has to be clear in your mind first. If you are not clear about the agenda, the objective that you're trying to achieve, you will lose that control over the audience. We as adults are more prone to making assumptions. We pick up things easily and we may lose the plot if the point is not clear with the speaker itself. Second challenge that you might face is the story being too obvious. In today's training session, what would have happened if we started maybe with a story of a rabbit and the turtle? It is too obvious, right? All of us would have been sleeping till now. It is a really obvious story, a really boring one that we are supposed to, that what we learn from the tortoise that we are supposed to continue, even if we are slow. Really obvious, right? But maybe the objective that we were trying to convey with the story would have been different. But it would have been lost because the story was too simple and too obvious. So that's another challenge that we face with adult learning. If the story is too obvious, it is really predictable, we lose interest. We make assumptions and we just turn a deaf ear towards the speaker. कि हाँ ठीक है अब ये बहुत स्लो स्टोरी सुनाएगी बट मुझे तो पता है ना कि लास्ट में तो टॉर्टोइस जीत जाएगा तो आई एम रेडी विद माई मॉरल दैट आई नीड टू कंटिन्यू स्लोली अब वॉट एवर द मॉरल द स्पीकर हैज डजंट मैटर सो वॉट हैपेंड हियर वाज अगेन द ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज लॉस्ट. The third one says metaphor is not in line with the moral of the story. Do we all know what a metaphor is? Can we quickly have some insights in the chat box? What is a metaphor? Some English enthusiasts, please. I'm sure we have all read about it in back then in our English classes. What do you think is a metaphor? Okay.
A word or
Kathy-
phrase.
Yes,
Shall I
Varnika. Yes, please.
So a word or phrase that is, like used in an imaginative way to show the story.
Yes, absolutely correct. So we use a word to as a to signify some other situation or maybe as a figure of speech. Yes, absolutely correct. So the figure of speech that you're using in a story has to be in line with the moral of the story. What happens if it's not in line with the story? So let's have a quick look at a video that will help you understand how important the usage of metaphor is. This video is actually an advertisement that you would see.
Hold on, Kathy. I'm just trying to play this.
Yeah. So this is an advertisement of a banking institution that we'll see. We'll see some metaphors used in this advertisement. And let's carefully observe what all metaphors have been used. And post that, we'll discuss which of them was correct.
Please stop the video. Please stop the recording for this ad. Otherwise, there will be a conflict in the YouTube.
Great. So I hope all of you had some observations from the video. What all metaphors did we see? Did you find any metaphors in the video?
Circumstances work in your favor.
Absolutely, Varnika. Circumstances working in our favor. Anyone else? Any takeaway from the video that we just saw?
There's one girl, timing is everything.
Yes, Rajkumar, timing is everything. So the video that we saw, it largely talks about how timing is important, how alertness is important, how you have to be ready for every situation. If we go back to the video, if we remember, there was a couple sitting there in the restaurant and how the wait staff was helping each other out, how they were ready and prepared for the situation, that just when the dish was about to fall on the lady's clothes, there was another female who held the dish tightly, who held the pan and saved it from the accident. So she was there just in time, she was prepared for it, and she was available to let the experience be a memorable one than spoiling it. But this advertisement is actually of a bank. There are professions which, if something goes wrong, we are unable to forgive. Would you be able to forgive a carpenter who spoils your table or a doctor who spoils your vaccination schedules? Which one is easy to forgive? I mean, my mother would not forgive even the carpenter, but that's a different case. Carpenter or doctor? What say, guys?
Carpenter.
Carpenter, right? Because what he did, the damage was not that big. It can still be solved out. But what happens if the bank staff makes these errors? What would happen if by mistake somebody transfers that 80 lakh from your bank account to mine? ऐसे होश उड़ जाएंगे ना, ये क्या हो गया?
Oh my
I don't know her. Why the hell was my amount transferred to her? Will be after the life of that banking staff might be just a small error from their end. But that profession is such we are unable to forgive. We do not expect, although we know they are humans, deep down we know they can make errors, but that is not something we'll be able to accept easily. So here, if the metaphor for banking staff was that wait staff, the metaphor was not correct. The main aim of that advertisement was to generate that feeling of trust कि आपका पैसा हमारे पास सेफ है, हम उसको अकाउंट्स में डिपॉजिट करेंगे, वो कहीं नहीं जाएगा. बट अगर बैंक स्टाफ से भी ऐसी गलतियां हो, इवन इफ दे आर एबल टू मेंड इट इंटरनली एंड वी एज कस्टमर्स गेट टू नो इट, वो ट्रस्ट ही नहीं आएगा. आई वुड नेवर गिव माई मनी टू समबडी हु इज मेकिंग एरर्स लाइक दिस. Maybe this time I was lucky it came back. What if it doesn't the second time? So here the metaphor was not in line with the moral of the story, and hence this challenge, that objective was not achieved. You'll be driving away the existing customers as well. The fourth challenge would be lack of structure. Abhi se pehle, we just saw the story of MBA chai wala. What if I change the sequence? What if I add the details ki hospital wala sequence pehle, then I add some details like how he lied to his parents? There would be a lot of confusion, right? We would not be able to figure out ki story hai kis bare mein, main character kaun hai. Maybe the parents who gave money, is it about an unfaithful son who's just spoiling money? Or is it about people who were facing this challenge that he's driving away all the business? Main character kaun hai, background kya hai, kuch samajh nahi aayega. So your story has to have a proper structure for the audience to understand it. And lastly, unrelated details. Have you ever noticed that when we watch a movie or when we watch a sitcom, there are some characters जिनका कोई रोल नहीं होता है, वो बस ऐसे ही सड़क क्रॉस करके चले जाते हैं. वो एक कपल जो मेन हीरो के पीछे आइसक्रीम खा रहा है, no one remembers them because their actions, their dialogues actually do not make any change to the story. They're not that relevant. Now that addition of those unrelated characters or people is important while we are actually seeing something for visuals. To create that impact of a busy street, yeah, to create that impact of that busy park. But that is not required when you're sharing a story. You would not talk about somebody standing behind the bench जब hero bench पे बैठ के गिटार बजा रहा है. Not related, right? Not needed. So avoid sharing unrelated details. Avoid adding unrelated characters to your story. So these are the challenges that you might face while storytelling. However, here, how do we really overcome these challenges? Can you think of anything that will help you overcome it? Any thoughts? How to overcome these challenges? Exactly ऐसा क्या करें कि ये challenge आए ही नहीं? Okay, I'll tell you how to overcome this. So to overcome this, we have a structure that we call 5 C's of storytelling. So these are the 5 C's that we use that will help you overcome these challenges, that would make your stories more interesting and help you achieve that objective. अगर आपका objective एक meeting के end में ये है कि पूरी team आपकी बात सुने, they are highly motivated and they are ready to sacrifice their 31st night sitting in the office. They are that dedicated. तो वो आपका objective है. There are certain techniques that would help you do that. Let's take a look at this one. Just allow me one moment. I'll be sharing my screen and I'll show you something really interesting.
Shall I do it, Kathy?
Just give me one moment, Smita. I'm almost there. So here we have 5 C's of storytelling that we see on my screen. Circumstances, which is basically the background setting. कि story based कहाँ है, उसका background क्या है, किसके बारे में है story. Second is curiosity, so generating that feeling कि आगे क्या होगा. Would the hero succeed or will he die in that car crash? What would happen about his kid? The third one is the usage of characters. So we have to have some characters introduced to the story and उनके actions story को आगे कहाँ ले जाने वाले हैं. Conversations, so that is the tone of the story. We often see great orators and how they use voice modulation to grab our attention. And lastly, conflicts. Come on, I believe we all love drama. I mean, I really do. I would not appreciate a story being that boring. Hero आराम से heroine के पास गाड़ी चला के पहुंच गया. That would not do, right? We have to have that major big accident before he reaches the princess. So I'll show you some examples. So on my screen, you see a phrase. Let's quickly read it and identify which C is matching here. Which of the technique is matching? So would anyone like to read? Just help me read it out a bit.
I'll do it. In a small town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there lived a young girl named Elsa. She worked as a librarian in the town's only library, surrounded by shelves of old books and mysterious artifacts. One day, while rearranging some books, she stumbled upon a dusty old locket tucked away in a forgotten corner of the library's attic.
Thank you so much, Rajkumar, for reading it out for us. So guys, what do you think? Is it conflict? Is it curiosity?
Number two,
Circumstance?
curiosity.
Okay, so Rajkumar says curiosity. What about you, Varnika? What do you think?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Okay, Yash also says curiosity. So guys, this is actually circumstances. I'll tell you why. Because this phrase, this paragraph is actually helping us imagine where the story is based. When Rajkumar was reading out the initial lines mentioning how the town is based in rolling hills and some dense forests, how many of you were able to imagine those dense forests? Were you able to see those green tall trees? Or maybe the old library where Elsa is working? Were you able to see those round spectacles Elsa is wearing? Or that dirt mark on her face? So this paragraph is basically giving us insights, is helping us imagine कि story का main character कौन है, story का base क्या है, where it is based around, why are we actually listening to the story, and where it will take us. So this is circumstances. The next one. So can we have Yash to read this out?
Am I audible?
Yes, Yash, you are. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah, okay. So she examined the locket under the dim attic light. Who did it belong to? What stories did it hold within its delicate frame? Determined to uncover its origins, she embarked on a quest to unravel the mysterious surrounding the locket, unaware of the adventure that they lay ahead.
What do you think? What is it?
This is curiosity.
Curiosity. I think this
Absolutely
one.
correct,
Yes.
Varnika and Rajkumar. This is curiosity.
Yeah.
So questions like who did it belong to, what stories did it hold, actually are pushing those thoughts in our mind. Ki actually वो locket किसका है? We started imagining what would there be a next character, or would she just go on an adventure to find out the owner of that locket? So this is curiosity. The third one says that strange occurrences plague the town and whispers of a curse echo through the street. Determined to uncover the truth, Elsa faced resistance from those who wished to keep the town's secrets buried. She did not know whom to trust in the journey. Which one is these? So we already have circumstances. We know
Conflict.
curiosity was created. I'm so sorry. I think somebody was speaking.
Conflict. Conflict, yes. I mentioned.
Exactly. Exactly, Snehal. This is conflict. So here there's a conflict going on between Elsa and the people who are trying to keep the secrets away. You'll often find these conflicts being created. अगर story में कोई villain नहीं है, तो भी grey characters दिखते हैं हमें. एक बहुत अच्छा सा कोई कैरेक्टर होगा, मेन कैरेक्टर, कभी सिटकॉम्स में मेन कैरेक्टर के साइड पे वो दो डॉल्स टाइप देखें, एक तो एंजल जैसा कुछ दिख रहा होगा, एंड देन देयर इज अ डेविल हु सेज गो फॉर इट, डोंट केयर अबाउट एनीवन, ईट दैट लास्ट पीस ऑफ केक, इट डजंट मैटर, वील एक्सरसाइज टुमारो. So those are the two thoughts that we often face that conflict between. So conflicts make our stories interesting. Then finally, our main character, Elsa, is really impressed by a historian, and excitedly, she says, I am extremely happy to know that the locket has magical powers. Now we have curiosity, we have conflict, we have circumstances. So what are we left with here?
Conversations.
Exactly, Rajkumar. So here we have conversations. Now, when I read out this line about Elsa being extremely happy, what would change if I read it like this? I'm extremely happy to know that the locket has magical powers. Lost its impact, right? No impact. It sounds really boring.
Yes.
What magical powers? But when I say the locket has magical powers, it really creates that impact. That voice modulation, that tone actually creates interest in the story. So that's conversations. And then we have this one. So during her journey to find the origin of the locket, Elsa meets an old historian, Jack. Jack wore a long gray coat, had long and curly hair tied in a bun, and despite his appearance and age, he seemed to be friendly. So, what is this? I think it's pretty easy to guess. We are just left with one.
Circumstances.
So, Varnika, this is characters.
Characters. We have
So
Jack.
when I said, yes, Rajkumar, we have Jack here. So when I said he's wearing a long gray coat, we are able to imagine a faint figure in our minds. He has a long coat. Probably he has those wrinkles on his face because we say an old historian. And we all could visualize his curly hair tied in a bun. I could even see that bun really being untidy. So that's the usage of characters that we do. We add characters to a story to make it more interesting, to pick up those details with the help of those characters. These were the 5 C's that will help you make your stories more interesting. You'll be able to captivate audience attention span and convey what your main objective is. So let's quickly summarize what we learned in today's webinar, how we started off with storytelling being the earliest form of communication. We got to know that PPTs that we are using are only 37 years old. Then we saw what impact stories have on our minds, how our hormones are related, and what happens in our body when we hear a story. We also saw why it would work in your workplace setting, how you'll form better human connections, you'll be encouraging people and achieving your objectives. We learned about the techniques and also the challenges that may come your way. So with this, everyone, let's create stories, let's keep sharing it around and observe how it changes your life and even the world around you. So create stories, share it with people, and then we'll be able to see the magic of storytelling. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. I hope we were able to inspire you and motivate you for creating stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
In case you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box, or you can even unmute and share.
All informative. So I wanted to join from
Rishnu, your voice is not audible.
because I'm traveling right now, but I
Okay.
wanted to attend. Right. By the way, informative session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rishnu.
Thanks,
Thank
Rishnu.
Okay, I just wanted to say I can see lots of efforts you both have put in bringing this presentation. It was really informative, and there was not even one single moment my concentration was distracted. I was able to fully focus. Great job, Smita. Great job, Kwati. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Yeah.
Very nice session, Kathy and Smita. Very insightful, very engaging, very well done. Thank you so much. It was really amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Rahul.
you so much, Rahul.
Thank you so much, Khyati and Smita, for this wonderful session. And we'll apply that, we'll do better storytelling. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Anjay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Smita and Kathy, for this amazing session. I really enjoyed the storytelling, webinar for learning session with a very short span of time, amazing timings plus voice modulation. Everything was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you, Preeti.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Any question from anyone?
Yes, there are many chats. Yes, thank you all. You have shared your feedback in the chat section as well. Thank you so much. Any questions you people have?
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely
Thank you.
weekend.
Thank you for your time. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.